My wife called me her test-run husband at her consulting firm launch, handed me divorce papers in front of 200 guests, and smiled like she'd won. What she didn't know: I owned the building, the software, the credit lines, everything her empire stood on. I gave her 60 minutes before I pulled the plug. My name is Garrett Hampton. I'm 47 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I understood my wife. I thought our marriage, while not perfect, was built on something solid. Turns out I was just the foundation she stood on, while reaching for something she wanted more. I made my money in commercial real estate. Not the flashy kind where you flip properties and brag about it on social media. The quiet kind. Strip malls in growing suburbs. Office buildings in second-tier cities. Warehouses near expanding distribution hubs. I found undervalued properties, improved them, and let good tenants build equity for both of us. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, reliable. The kind of business that let me fund my wife Amber's ambitions without blinking. Amber Beaumont Hampton, 39 years old, sharp as a scalpel and twice as cold when she wanted to be. She came into my life 11 years ago with a teenage daughter named Olivia from her first marriage, a killer smile, and a dream of building her own management consulting firm. I fell hard. She was brilliant, driven, and she made me feel like I was part of something bigger than rental agreements and property assessments. We had Dylan together when Amber was 27. He's 12 now. Good kid. Plays soccer, collects baseball cards, still hugs me good night, even though his friends probably think that's lame. Olivia is 15 now, quiet but observant. She's always watched her mother with careful eyes, like she's studying a textbook she doesn't fully trust. For the last 3 years, I've been Amber's silent partner. Not officially, not on paper, but in every way that mattered. I funded the startup costs for Beaumont Advisory Group. $14.5 million over 3 years. Seed capital, operational expenses, marketing budgets, office build-out. I made introductions to executives I knew from property deals. I covered our household expenses so she could pour every dollar of her salary into building her brand. I even helped her hire Sophie Rivers, Derek Hunt, and Lauren Kane, 3 sharp junior partners who believed in Amber's vision of a boutique firm that could compete with the big consulting houses. The launch party was supposed to be our celebration. That's what she told me. Our big night, she said, kissing me on the cheek while adjusting her jade green dress in the mirror. I wore a charcoal suit, the one she picked out last month. I felt proud. Stupid, but proud. The venue was a converted loft in downtown Portland. Exposed brick, industrial lighting, catering by some chef whose name I can't remember. 200 guests. Clients, potential clients, competitors sizing up the new player, journalists from the business section. Amber worked the room like she was born to it, that brilliant smile never faltering. I stood near the bar, nursing a bourbon, watching her shine. Dylan was home with a babysitter. Olivia had asked to stay home too. Said she had homework. I didn't push it. Then came the speech. Amber stepped onto the small stage they'd set up near the windows overlooking the city. The room quieted. She thanked her team. She thanked her mentors. She thanked the clients who'd taken a chance on a new firm. Then she looked directly at me. "And I want to thank someone very special," Amber said, her voice carrying that smooth confidence she used in boardrooms. "My husband, Garrett." People turned to look at me. I raised my glass slightly, expecting the usual supportive spouse appreciation. "Garrett has been what I call my test-run husband," she continued, and the room went still. Someone steady enough to help me build the foundation I needed. And now that the foundation's complete, it's time for me to build the life I actually want. She pulled a cream-colored envelope from behind the podium. My brain hadn't caught up yet. I was still processing test-run husband, still seeing the faces around me shift from congratulatory to confused to uncomfortably fascinated. Amber walked off the stage, heels clicking on the hardwood, and handed me the envelope. Up close, I could see her eyes were bright but hard, determined. "These are divorce papers," she said quietly, just loud enough for the people nearest to us to hear. "Consider this our first case at Beaumont Advisory Group, dissolving partnerships that no longer serve their purpose." A few people laughed nervously. Someone near the back actually clapped, probably thinking it was some kind of performance art. I opened the envelope. Legal letterhead. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Filed 4 days ago. I looked at the signature at the bottom. Hers. Already signed. "You could have done this privately," I said. My voice came out steady. I'm surprised it did. Where's the impact in that? Amber replied. This is about making statements, Garrett. You taught me that. Every deal, every partnership, every ending should mean something. I folded the papers, slid them back into the envelope, and tucked it into my jacket pocket. The room was watching now. Phones were probably out. This would be on social media within the hour. I looked at my wife, really looked at her, and I realized I was staring at a stranger who'd been playing a part for 11 years. Congratulations on your launch, I said quietly. Then I walked out of that loft, past the exposed brick and the expensive cheese platters, and the people who just watched my marriage end as entertainment. The valet brought my car around. I tipped him $50 because my hands needed something to do. I sat behind the wheel of my Mercedes, the one Amber always said was too boring for someone with my net worth, and I didn't go home. I drove to a 24-hour diner on the edge of town. I ordered coffee I didn't drink and sat in a booth with my laptop. I opened the encrypted files I kept for serious business. The ones Amber never asked about because she assumed I was just managing rental properties. And I started making calls. By sunrise, I'd done something that couldn't be undone. But I didn't feel guilty. I felt clear. I got home around 7 in the morning. The house was quiet. Dylan would be getting ready for school soon. Olivia's door was closed, probably still asleep or pretending to be. I went straight to my office on the second floor. The one room Amber never bothered with because it didn't match her aesthetic vision for the house. Dark wood, leather chair, walls lined with binders of property documents that looked boring to anyone who didn't know what they represented. I locked the door behind me. Old habit from my early days in real estate when I learned that privacy wasn't paranoia, it was protection. My laptop sat on the desk where I'd left it yesterday morning. A lifetime ago. I powered it up and entered the password Amber had never asked about. Why would she? I was just her steady, boring husband managing rental properties while she built empires. The screen loaded. No family photos for wallpaper. No cute backgrounds. Just a black screen with a login prompt. I typed in the 16-character code I'd memorized years ago, and the system opened. What Amber didn't know, what she'd never bothered to ask about during our 11 years together, was that I didn't just own strip malls and office buildings. I owned the infrastructure her entire firm was built on. The building where Beaumont Advisory Group leased their office space. Mine. Purchased through a holding company 3 years ago when Amber first started talking about launching her firm. I'd suggested the location. She'd loved it. Signed a 5-year lease at below market rates because the landlord, a shell company I controlled, wanted to support local businesses. The software platform they used for client management, licensed through a company I had equity in. I'd introduced Amber to the CEO at a networking event. She got a generous startup discount. All she had to do was sign the standard agreement. I pulled up the documents now. Scanned copies of everything. The office lease. The software licensing agreement. The credit line she'd opened with a bank where I'd helped arrange the introduction. And there, buried in the standard terms and conditions she'd initialed without reading, were the clauses I'd spent 3 years carefully positioning. Termination rights. Ownership reversions. Financial guarantees tied to conditions that, as of last night, had been violated. I picked up my phone and made the first call. My banker, Thomas Reinhardt. We'd done business for 15 years. He answered on the second ring. Garrett, Thomas said. His voice had that early morning gravel of someone who'd been up late. I saw the news. Are you all right? Word traveled fast. Probably social media footage from the launch party. I need to execute the termination clause on account Series 7. I said, my voice steady. Effective immediately. A pause. Then all of them. Every automatic payment, every credit line, every standing authorization, everything tied to Beaumont Advisory Group. Garrett, that's going to cause significant operational disruption for... I know exactly what it's going to cause. I interrupted. Can you do it or not? Another pause. Longer this time. Thomas was calculating risk, liability, friendship. Finally, he said, give me 2 hours. I'll need to coordinate with compliance. 1 hour, I said. And Thomas. No calls to Amber warning her. This is business, not charity. Understood, he said quietly. Then he hung up. I sat back in my chair and looked at the screen. The foundation Amber had stood on while calling me a test-run husband was about to disappear, and I was just getting started. I kept my phone on airplane mode for exactly 4 hours. Not out of fear. Out of control. I wanted every system to execute, every automatic payment to fail, every credit authorization to decline before Amber even knew what was happening. At 11:30, I switched airplane mode off. The phone didn't just vibrate. It convulsed in my hand like something alive and dying. The screen lit up with notifications cascading so fast the numbers blurred. 42 missed calls. Then it refreshed. 89. Another refresh. 136. Text messages flooded in. First from Amber. What did you do to the accounts? Call me now. Then from Sophie Rivers, one of her junior partners. Garrett, something's wrong with our banking access. Amber's in a panic. Please call. Then Amber again, the tone shifting. This is sabotage. I swear to God. Garrett, if you're doing this out of spite. I didn't respond. I sat at my desk, coffee going cold, watching the missed call counter climb past 200. The phone kept buzzing. Text after text. Voicemail notifications piling up. Then a new number appeared. Preston Beaumont, Amber's father, former managing partner at Beaumont and Associates, one of the most feared corporate law firms in Oregon. He'd built half his reputation intimidating people across conference tables. The text read, "We need to talk. Don't make this uglier than it needs to be." I set the phone down and went to make fresh coffee. When I came back 15 minutes later, the missed calls had passed 300. 312, to be exact. Then 328. At 336 missed calls, my doorbell rang. Not frantic pounding. Not desperate knocking. A composed, measured ring. The kind of ring that said someone was here on business, not emotion. I walked downstairs slowly. Took my time. Let whoever it was wait on my porch while I decided whether this conversation was worth having. Through the peephole, I saw Preston Beaumont. 78 years old, but still sharp in a gray wool coat, his silver hair perfectly styled. He stood with his hands clasped in front of him, patient, like he had all the time in the world. I opened the door. Didn't invite him in. Just stood in the doorway and waited. "Garrett," Preston said, his voice carrying that courtroom smoothness. "I know this looks bad, but you and I are reasonable men. We can solve this quietly. Can we?" I said. Preston's smile was practiced, the kind that had closed million-dollar settlements. Amber made a mistake. A public one, and I won't pretend otherwise. But mistakes can be corrected. What matters now is damage control. Whose damage? I asked. Mine or hers? He shifted slightly, recalibrating. I've spoken with the managing partners at 3 different firms. We can structure a buyout of your investment. Full return, plus 20% for your trouble. You walk away whole. We stabilize Beaumont Advisory, and everyone moves forward. I didn't make an investment, I said quietly. I built her entire operation from the ground up. The office lease, the credit lines, the vendor contracts. All of it runs through systems I control. Preston's expression flickered, just for a second, long enough to tell me Amber hadn't shared that detail with Daddy. Then let's discuss terms, he said, recovering smoothly. Name your price. I don't want money, I said. I want her to understand what happens when you treat people like stepping stones. Preston's jaw tightened. You're making a mistake, Garrett. Amber has resources. Legal resources. You're opening yourself up to lawsuits, public scrutiny. Let her sue, I said. Discovery should be interesting, especially when we get into how she funded that firm. I closed the door. Not a slam, just a firm, final click. Through the door, I heard Preston stand there for another 30 seconds. Then footsteps retreating down the walkway. My phone was still buzzing on the desk upstairs. I ignored it. Let ring. Let them panic. The foundation had just collapsed. Now came the real fall. By Monday morning, the damage was complete. I didn't have to monitor it myself. My phone told the story in real time through increasingly desperate messages from people who'd been at that launch party looking smug. Derek Hunt, one of Amber's junior partners, sent a carefully worded email at 7:15 a.m. Garrett, I hope we can discuss the current situation professionally. Several of our vendor contracts have been suspended, and we're trying to understand the scope of the issue. Translation, we're drowning and need you to throw us a rope. I deleted it. Lauren Kane tried a different approach at 8:30. I know things are complicated right now, but our clients are starting to ask questions. Is there any way we can find a resolution that protects everyone's interests? Translation, clients are running, and we're about to lose everything. Deleted. By 9 a.m., the business forums I monitored were lighting up. Someone had posted on a Portland consulting industry group. Anyone know what's happening at Beaumont Advisory? Their office door was locked this morning, and their website's down. The responses came fast. Speculation, rumors, a few people claiming insider knowledge. One comment made me pause. Heard the founder's husband pulled all the funding after she served him divorce papers at the launch party. Brutal. Another reply. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I closed the forum and opened my email. There was one for Vanessa Cole, Amber's assistant. Young, competent, smart enough to know when a ship was sinking. The subject line read, "Confidential, for your eyes only." I opened it. "Mr. Hampton, I don't know if you'll read this, but I thought you should know. Mrs. Hampton asked me to hide certain financial documents last week. She said it was standard business practice, but something felt wrong. I've attached scanned copies. I don't want to be part of whatever's happening. I'm sorry." The attachments loaded. Bank statements showing transfers I'd never authorized. Loan applications submitted using forged signatures that looked close enough to mine to fool a casual observer. A draft operating agreement for Beaumont Advisory that listed Amber as sole owner, with no mention of my capital contribution. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. The divorce wasn't a sudden decision made in passion. It was a calculated exit strategy. I forwarded everything to my attorney with a single line, "Add fraud to the filing." My phone rang. Amber. I let it go to voicemail. She called again immediately. Then again. Finally, I answered. "What do you want?" I said, my voice flat. "Gara, please." Her voice was strained, no longer the confident tone from the launch party. "We need to talk. Face to face. Whatever's happening with the accounts, we can fix it." "There's nothing to fix," I said. "The accounts are frozen because the agreements you signed have termination clauses. You violated those clauses when you filed for divorce without proper notification to your investment partners." "Investment partners? You're my husband." I corrected. "You made that very clear on Saturday night. Now I'm just a creditor collecting what's owed." "Garrett, the firm will collapse. Sophie, Derek, Lauren, they'll all lose their jobs. Our clients." "Your clients," I interrupted. "Your firm. Your problem. You wanted to build something without me. Consider this your opportunity." "You're doing this to punish me," Amber said, and now I could hear tears starting. "No," I said quietly. "I'm doing this because you forgot something important. Foundations don't just hold things up. They also decide when to let things fall." I hung up, blocked her number. Then I blocked Preston's number. Then every number associated with Beaumont Advisory Group. My phone finally went quiet. I sat at my desk and opened a new document. Not for anger, not for revenge, for planning. Because the firm was gone, but Amber still had one thing left. The house. Our house. The one she'd remodeled with my money, filled with furniture she'd chosen, in a neighborhood she'd insisted we move to. A house that, according to property records I'd reviewed very carefully, was titled solely in my name. Time to see how she handled homelessness the way she'd handled humiliating me in public. Wednesday morning brought the news I'd been waiting for. Not from Amber. From the State Business Registry. Beaumont Advisory Group's business license had been suspended pending resolution of outstanding vendor claims and credit disputes. The notice was public record. Anyone could see it. Clients definitely could. I was drinking coffee in my kitchen when Dylan came downstairs for breakfast. 12 years old, still in his soccer pajamas, hair sticking up in 3 directions. "Dad, where's Mom?" he asked, pouring cereal. "She's staying somewhere else for a while," I said. Simple, honest, age-appropriate. "Because of the divorce?" Dylan said it casually, like he was asking about the weather. I looked at him carefully. "You know about that?" "Olivia told me," Dylan said, crunching cereal. "She said Mom did something really mean at her party and you're not together anymore." Olivia, 15 years old and observant as hell. She'd probably put the pieces together before I had. "That's basically right," I said. Dylan nodded, eating his cereal in silence for a moment. "Then are you sad?" Was I? I thought about it. Really thought about it. "No," I said honestly. "I'm tired, but not sad." "Good," Dylan said. "Mom was always on her phone anyway. Kids see more than we give them credit for." That afternoon, my attorney called. His voice was professional, but carried an edge of satisfaction. "Garrett, the forensic accountant finished the preliminary review," he said. "The forged signatures on those loan applications, they're not even good forgeries. Any handwriting expert will confirm it in under an hour." "How much did you take out in my name?" I asked. 2.3 million, Thomas said, across 4 different financial institutions. She used your business credit rating to secure favorable terms, then funneled the money into Beaumont Advisory operating accounts. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger. Recognition. She'd been stealing from me while sleeping next to me. File criminal charges, I said. All of them. Fraud, identity theft, whatever applies. Garrett, that's going to be public. Very public. Are you prepared for that? She made our divorce public entertainment, I said. She can handle the consequences being public too. Thomas paused, then said, understood. I'll have the paperwork filed by end of business today. By evening, 3 of Amber's junior partners had reached out. Not to her. To me. Sophie Rivers sent a carefully worded email. Mr. Hampton, I'm exploring options outside of Beaumont Advisory. If you're planning any new ventures, I'd appreciate the opportunity to discuss potential collaboration. Derek Hunt was more direct. The ship's sinking, and I'm not going down with it. Coffee this week. Lauren Kane's message was simple. I should have asked more questions. I'm sorry. Can we talk? They'd figured it out. The firm was dead. Amber was toxic. And I was the one with the capital and connections to build something new. I replied to all 3 with the same message. Friday, 10 a.m. My office. Bring your client lists. Friday morning, Sophie, Derek, and Lauren sat in my home office looking like refugees from a disaster zone. Which, technically they were. Sophie spoke first. 32, sharp, efficient. Mr. Hampton, I want to be clear about why we're here. We believed in what Beaumont Advisory could be. We didn't know how it was funded or what Amber was doing behind the scenes. I know, I said. You're good at your jobs. That's why you're here. Derek leaned forward. What are you offering? A real firm, I said. Proper equity splits. Transparent financing. No games. No hidden agendas. You bring your expertise and your clients. I provide the capital and structure. We build something that doesn't collapse when one person decides to play power games. Lauren studied me carefully. What's the catch? No catch, I said. But I own controlling interest. 60%. You 3 split 30% equally. The remaining 10% goes to performance bonuses tied to firm growth. You want more equity, you earn it by building value. They exchanged glances. This was a real offer. Better than scrambling for jobs at established firms where they'd start at the bottom again. What about Amber? Sophie asked quietly. What about her? I said, she's going to fight this. Fight you. She'll call it revenge, sabotage, whatever gets her sympathy. Let her, I said. I have forensic accountants, paper trails, and fraud charges being filed as we speak. She can tell whatever story she wants. The evidence tells a different one. Derek nodded slowly. When do we start? Monday, I said. I've already secured office space downtown. Different building, better location. We'll call it Hampton Strategic Group. Clean slate. They looked at each other again, then back at me. We're in, Sophie said. The other 2 nodded. We shook hands. Professional. Clean. No drama. After they left, I sat at my desk and looked at the preliminary documents my attorney had prepared. Articles of incorporation. Operating agreements. Partnership structures. This wasn't revenge. Revenge was emotional, messy, temporary. This was replacement. I was building what Amber thought she'd built. Except this time it would be real. My phone buzzed. A message from Olivia. Dad, Mom tried to pick me up from school today. I told her I'm staying with you. She got upset. Just wanted you to know. I texted back. Thank you for telling me. You're safe here. 3 dots appeared. Then, I know. Love you, Dad. 15 years old, and she'd already chosen sides. Not because I'd asked her to. Because she'd watched her mother operate for years and drew her own conclusions. The foundation was gone. The firm was dead. But something better was already taking shape. And Amber was about to learn that the quiet man she'd called a test-run husband had been building empires while she'd been building brands. 2 weeks after filing criminal charges, the news broke exactly as I'd expected. Portland Business Journal ran it as their lead story. Former consulting firm founder faces fraud charges. Amber Beaumont accused of identity theft, bank fraud. The article laid it out in clinical detail. $2.3 million obtained through forged signatures. For separate financial institutions defrauded. A pattern of deliberate misrepresentation spanning 8 months. The evidence was public record now. Bank documents, handwriting analysis, Forensic accounting reports. I was in the new Hampton Strategic Group office when Sophie showed me the article on her tablet. We've been open for 1 week. Already had 3 former Beaumont Advisory clients and 2 new ones. She's going to blame you for this, Sophie said quietly. She already is, I said. Her attorney sent a statement to the press yesterday, calling me vindictive and claiming I'm using my resources to destroy her career out of spite. Derek walked over from his desk. I saw that. It's not playing well. The comments section is brutal. People remember the launch party video. He was right. The footage of Amber handing me divorce papers while calling me her test-run husband had gone viral. Local news had covered it. Business forums had dissected it. When her fraud charges hit the news, people connected the dots instantly. One comment I'd seen summarized it perfectly. She publicly humiliated her husband at a party funded by his money, then got caught stealing millions in his name. That's not vindictive prosecution. That's consequences. Lauren brought coffee into the conference room where we were reviewing client proposals. Garrett, I got a call from someone at the prosecutor's office. They want to interview all 3 of us about what we observed at Beaumont Advisory. What did you tell them? I asked. That we'd cooperate fully, Lauren said. We have emails, documents, transaction records, everything they need to establish the timeline. I nodded. This was exactly how it needed to go. Clean, documented, irrefutable. My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. Dad, Mom showed up at school again. Security had to escort her off campus. She was yelling about how you turned me against her. It was embarrassing. I texted back. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. Are you okay? Yeah, but everyone was staring. Can you pick me up today instead of me taking the bus? I'll be there at 3, I replied. This was what Amber had become. A woman so desperate to control the narrative that she'd make scenes at her daughter's school. The same woman who'd spent 11 years curating a perfect public image was now unraveling in front of anyone who'd watch. That evening, Preston Beaumont called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Garrett, he said, his voice tired in a way I'd never heard before. I'm calling as Amber's father, not her attorney. Off the record. I'm listening, I said. She made mistakes. Serious ones. I'm not disputing that. But these criminal charges will destroy what's left of her career. Is there any way we can resolve this before it goes to trial? What are you proposing? I asked, though I already knew. She pleads to lesser charges, makes full restitution, accepts probation. You get your money back with interest. The criminal record gets expunged after completion of terms. She has a chance to rebuild. And in exchange, you don't testify, Preston said. You don't provide additional evidence. You let the prosecution work with what they already have. I was quiet for a moment, considering. Not because I was tempted, because I wanted Preston to understand exactly why the answer was no. Preston, your daughter didn't just steal from me, I said. She committed fraud against 4 banks. She forged legal documents. She built a business on criminal activity. This isn't about me anymore. This is about the law. The law has discretion, Preston argued. So do I said. And I'm choosing to let justice run its course. Amber wanted to dissolve our partnership. Fine. But she doesn't get to commit crimes and walk away because her father still has connections. Preston was silent for a long moment. Then, quietly, I thought you were better than this. I'm better than this, I said. That's why I'm not the one facing charges. I hung up. 3 weeks after opening Hampton Strategic Group, we held our official launch event. Not a party. A professional networking reception at a downtown hotel. 50 invited guests. Current clients, potential clients, industry contacts who had worked with me over the years. No champagne toasts. No speeches about disruption or innovation. Just solid business conversations and clear value propositions. Sophie handled the presentations. She was better at it anyway, and it sent the right message. This wasn't my vanity project. This was a real firm with real talent. Dylan and Olivia came to the event. I'd asked them if they wanted to, and both said yes. Dylan wore a button-down shirt and tie, looking simultaneously 12 years old and trying very hard to look professional. Olivia wore a simple dress, stayed close to me, watched everything with those observant eyes. A reporter from the Business Journal approached me during a quiet moment. Mid-40s, professional, carrying a digital recorder. Mr. Hampton, can I ask you a few questions about the transition from Beaumont Advisory to Hampton Strategic? Brief ones, I said. Some people are calling this a revenge business. A way to punish your ex-wife by stealing her team and clients. How do you respond? I looked at her directly. I respond by pointing to our client retention rate, our growth projections, and the fact that we're operating with transparent funding and legitimate business practices. If that's revenge, then every successful business is revenge against bad management. Your wife's fraud charges, the reporter continued. Do you feel any responsibility for her current situation? My wife made her own choices, I said calmly. She chose to forge documents, commit fraud, and build a business on illegal activity. Those were her decisions. I'm simply choosing not to protect her from the consequences. The reporter nodded, made a note. One more question. If you could go back to the launch party, would you do anything differently? I thought about that. Really thought about it. No, I said, because that moment showed me exactly who I was married to. And sometimes you need clarity, even when it's painful. The reporter thanked me and moved on. I watched her go, then felt a hand slip into mine. Olivia. You did good, Dad, she said quietly. Yeah. You didn't get mad. You didn't yell. You just told the truth. 15 years old and already understanding that dignity matters more than volume. The event wrapped at 8. Clean, professional, successful. We'd secured 2 new client commitments and 3 serious prospects. Derek, Sophie, and Lauren were pleased. This was real. On the drive home, Dylan fell asleep in the back seat. Olivia sat in front, looking out the window at the Portland skyline. Do you think Mom will ever apologize? She asked. I don't know. I said honestly. Some people don't apologize. They just move on and expect everyone else to forget. That's sad, Olivia said. It is, I agreed. But we can't control what other people do. We can only control how we respond. You responded by building something better, Olivia said. She was right. I had. Not out of revenge, not out of spite, out of necessity, out of the simple recognition that when someone tears down what you've built, you have 2 choices, sit in the rubble or start building again. I'd chosen to build, and this time, the foundation was mine. The plea hearing took place on a gray Thursday morning in downtown Portland. I didn't attend, didn't need to. Richard sent me updates via text. Amber entered guilty plea to 2 counts of bank fraud, 1 count identity theft. Judge accepted. Sentencing in 30 days. I was in my office at Hampton Strategic when the message came through. Sophie was presenting to a potential client in the conference room. Derek was on a call with a manufacturer in Eugene. Lauren was reviewing contract terms for a healthcare group that wanted our advisory services. Normal business. Good business. The kind that didn't require drama or fraud to function. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Richard. Preston Beaumont made a statement to the press. Says you orchestrated a vindictive campaign against his daughter. Thinks you'll respond. I advise against it. I didn't respond. Didn't need to. The court record spoke for itself. Amber's guilty plea spoke for itself. Everything else was just noise from people who couldn't accept that actions have consequences. That evening, Olivia came into my office at home while I was reviewing quarterly projections. She'd been quieter than usual lately. Not sad, just thoughtful. Dad, I need to tell you something, she said, sitting in the chair across from my desk. I'm listening, I said, closing my laptop. Mom called me yesterday, Olivia said, from a number I didn't recognize, so I answered before I realized it was her. I kept my expression neutral. What did she say? She wanted me to testify at her sentencing hearing. Say that you manipulated me, that you turned me against her, that she's a good mother who made one mistake. Olivia's voice was steady, but her hands were clasped tight in her lap. What did you tell her? I asked carefully. I told her the truth, Olivia said, that you didn't manipulate me, that I watched her ignore us for years while building her career, that she made choices and now she has to deal with them. Then I hung up, 15 years old and already understanding what some adults never learn. That loyalty isn't automatic. It's earned. I'm proud of you, I said. She's going to hate me, Olivia said quietly. Maybe, I acknowledged, but you'll respect yourself. In the long run, that matters more. Olivia nodded, seemed to relax slightly. Dylan asked me if we're bad kids for not defending Mom. I told him we're honest kids. There's a difference. There is, I agreed. She stood to leave, paused at the door. Hampton Strategic is doing really well, right? Really well, I confirmed. Why? Because it proves something, Olivia said. That you didn't need her. You were always the one building things. She just stood on top of them and took credit. After she left, I sat in the quiet of my office and thought about that. Olivia was right. For 11 years, I'd been the foundation while Amber positioned herself as the architect. I'd funded her dreams, supported her ambitions, cleared obstacles from her path. And the moment she didn't need me anymore, she discarded me publicly, cruelly, without a second thought. But foundations don't disappear when someone stops standing on them. They remain, solid, ready to support the next thing worth building. I'd built Hampton Strategic on that same foundation. My capital, my network, my reputation. The difference was that this time, I wasn't hiding in the background. I was present, visible, an equal partner with Sophie, Derek, and Lauren. 3 weeks later, the sentencing hearing concluded. 5 years, supervised probation. $200,000 in restitution. Community service. Permanent felony record. Amber's career in consulting was over. Her reputation was destroyed. Her father's attempts to spin the narrative had failed. And I felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not vindication. Just the quiet recognition that justice had run its course. The foundation had held. Everything built on lies had fallen. And I was still standing. 18 months after that launch party, I stood in the conference room at Hampton Strategic Group watching Sophie present to a Fortune 500 client. The room was different now. Bigger office, better location, 12 employees instead of 3 partners, and a borrowed assistant. We'd grown, not through drama or publicity stunts, through solid work, good relationships, and businesses built on something real. The client signed a 2-year contract worth $3.4 million, our largest deal to date. After they left, Sophie, Derek, and Lauren gathered in my office. We should celebrate, Derek said. Dinner, I suggested. Somewhere nice. Bring your families. Families, Lauren laughed. Listen to you. Getting all sentimental. But we did it. That Friday, all of us gathered at a restaurant overlooking the Willamette River. Sophie's husband, an engineer who actually listened when she talked about work. Derek's girlfriend, a teacher with a sharp sense of humor. Lauren's partner, a graphic designer who'd helped create our branding. And my kids. Dylan, now 13, wearing a blazer he'd picked out himself. Olivia, 16, confident in a way she hadn't been when this all started. During dinner, Dylan leaned over. Dad, did you see Mom's LinkedIn? No, I said. Why would I? She's working at a coffee shop, Dylan said. Not managing it. Just working there. I glanced at Olivia. She met my eyes, shrugged slightly. She'd probably already known and chosen not to mention it. That's honest work, I said to Dylan. Nothing wrong with it. I know, Dylan said. It's just weird. She used to be so important. She thought she was important. Olivia corrected quietly. There's a difference. After dinner, we walked along the waterfront. The city lights reflected on the water. Dylan ran ahead, still young enough to find joy in simple things. Olivia walked beside me, hands in her jacket pockets. You did good, Dad, she said. We did good, I corrected. All of us. You, Dylan, me. We figured out how to be okay. Better than okay, Olivia said. We're actually happy. I don't think we were before. Not really. She was right. The marriage had been comfortable in a suffocating way. Predictable. Safe. But not happy. Not genuine. Now, standing on this waterfront with my kids and my business partners and their families, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because I'd won some battle against Amber, but because I'd stopped fighting her battle and started living my life. Hampton Strategic wasn't revenge. It was proof that foundations matter more than facades. That quiet strength outlasts loud ambition. That sometimes the best response to betrayal isn't retaliation. It's building something better and moving forward. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I'm sorry for what I did. I hope someday you can forgive me. Amber. I read it once, then deleted it. Not out of cruelty, not out of anger, but because forgiveness wasn't something she could ask for in a text message after 18 months of silence. And more importantly, it wasn't something I needed to give to move forward. I'd already moved forward. She'd have to find her own way to do the same. Dylan called from up ahead, pointing at something in the water. Olivia jogged to catch up with him. I followed, leaving the phone in my pocket, leaving the past where it belonged. Behind me.